You guys, however, just got taken captive by humans led by a huge hippo man. How do we feel about this?
I don't
Raazu's
remember that
not
happening.
happy.
I don't remember that happening.
No?
Sounds about right.
Right.
Raazu
He's
gives
a medium.
very
Okay.
wide berth.
Actually,
I think only Destil heard me, but I want to bring it up again
Okay.
that you guys keep blaming Birdie for getting us into trouble, but I think by volume, Red has gotten the party into way more trouble.
No, I don't buy
no.
that at all.
Disagree.
Here's the
This
difference.
is your fault.
Red
actually.
is a mastermind, so he's really good at making it always look like your fault.
Like I think we're in trouble. We're in this mess because of you, actually.
This was trouble that we were already in. Now, Red may have not gotten us out of trouble.
We didn't have
three
to.
of us out of trouble, but I didn't want to leave two of you behind.
I will say I genuinely like the idea that Birdie doesn't see the difference between this and, deliberately causing trouble. The exact same thing.
He's just like, trouble happened somewhere in my vicinity. And it is less than a day's march down to the wall, and you see it raising up in the distance. This mighty, just stone wall stretching all the way to the horizon in either the direction. And the place where you're marching towards, you're informed, is called Fort Salus.
So we're on the other side of the wall?
No, you're marching south to a fort that is along the wall, maintained by the Wemix. I need to make a quick note of something here. I'm sorry, bear with me just 1 second.
Add it to the world map in the future.
No. We don't care what's south of the wall.
It's not. It's north of the wall.
Yeah, it's part of the wall.
All right,
That's
kill
trash.
Birdie with impunity. How do you spell impunity?
What did I do?
LOVE.
P-U-N.
Love. I like it. Who's marching with Ironheart? You guys kind of have the option of marching directly with, the core of the party, which would be Ironheart. They have made a stretcher for the priest, so they can. A couple of the soldiers are carrying him along. Or you can be with the Outriders if you don't want to be along with the core of all these smelly humans.
I'll march with Ironheart.
Okay.
Raazu will march with Ironheart.
Yeah, I think that's everybody.
Yeah.
Unless Birdie wants to break off on his own.
Okay. So as you're approaching the fort, you see people outside waiting for you. The man in the front of this party who's waiting, I don't know, a couple hundred yards away from the wall, wearing golden armor that is shimmering in the daylight. He's got his... he has a banner with the Wemix colors, but it has the heraldry is a huge golden axe. And at the sight of this heraldry, you see Ironheart look confused for a moment. Like he's not
Raazu.
sure what to make of this. Raazu what?
Raazu retches a little bit at the guy in the gaudy armor.
You're just jealous that you don't have golden armor.
Zeldov.
Ironheart calls a stop to his procession. And then he and his squire ride ahead. What are you all doing as Ironheart's riding ahead?
Does he tell us to wait back?
He's called a halt to the march, and the other humans have stopped marching. But it's up to you if you want to stop or try to follow him.
Well, I think we'll stop.
Yeah.
Then you watch over the course of the next few minutes as Ironheart and his squire ride up to the man in golden armor. And they climb off their horses, and you see Ironheart remove his helmet. And they both take a knee in front of him. And you can see them conversing for a moment, but you can't hear what's being said.
That must be the Inquisitor.
Does he look
I think
inquisitive?
I think he might have expected the Inquisitor. It doesn't seem like he was expecting whoever that was. I mean, he might be surprised because the Inquisitor isn't usually out in full gear. I don't know.
And then the man in golden armor begins pointing out at the area around where you guys are standing. And some of his men begin carrying what looks like supplies and provisions in your direction. Large boxes. A couple of them are carrying a large pavilion tent, and then are moving swiftly in your direction.
Uh-oh.
No.
Are they
Ironheart.
gonna attack us with that gazebo?
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Nice.
Gazebo mimic.
Ironheart gets back on his horse. Rides back to you all. He tells you that you will all have the honor of being in the presence of General Albrecht. And that you will not be meeting with the High Inquisitor today.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
He tells you that he can think of no higher honor than being in the presence of the High General.
Raazu nods curtly.
And the men begin erecting this pavilion tent. What are you all doing as this work is taking place?
Adrex leans into Raazu, and Adrex says, "That didn't really answer the question, did it?"
No, it didn't.
And over the course of the next hour or so, this pavilion is hammered into the ground. Supplies are moved into it. The man in the golden armor and some of his retinue ride up to the entrance of the tent. They dismount. The general, lays his banner off to one of his bannermen, takes his helmet off, and enters into the pavilion. At this point, most of the party you've been marching with have broken off and are taking meals. Some of them have taken your survivors and are moving south to the fort. Anything you want to do with the survivors before they exit this scene?
I mean, I'm just gonna wish the dwarf well. He was helpful getting everyone else back south of the wall.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he tells you that when he arrives at his destination to the south, when he finds good work for himself, that he will, from time to time, raise his tankard in your names.
Thanks? Question mark.
All right, but make sure not to get it wrong.
Wendy spends the next like 20 minutes teaching him how to whistle her name.
Now, here's the thing. I can whistle way better than Nodal can. So, do we want to get into it here? That was alright.
Yeah, that's good.
You're getting better. My wife's not. My wife still can't after 9 years of trying. At about dusk, about the time the men are all taking their evening meal, you are summoned into the pavilion. All 5 of you.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fun.
So wait, you asked if there was anything we wanted to be doing during this time? If they were cooking a fancy meal, Wendy wanted to be part of that.
No, there's
Yeah,
nothing
that was-
fancy.
what's
There's
going on
nothing
there?
fancy being cooked. No, they're.
Ah,
Adrex would have helped, offered to
Weak
help
sauce.
set up the pavilion.
In any case, the kitchens are all back in the fort.
Oh,
Is Wendy going to go into the fort?
I mean, I'm gonna teach them how to cook better.
teach him how to
But
make
it's the
your,
universal language.
teach him how to make your what was it? Goulash? Was it goulash?
You nerds are gonna be out there with weapons. Wendy's gonna bring world peace through goulash.
I thought it was gumbo.
Gumbo, that's what it was, yeah.
I'm not convinced
Yeah.
gumbo and goulash are different things.
Campaign shifts into.
I think
Anthony
goulash is
Bourdain's
weak to cold iron.
Uncharted.
Heading into the pavilion, getting a better look at the general. He's wearing his colors, a tunic with the golden axe on it. He's wearing a chain shirt now, but the rest of his armor has been doffed. And you see his squire is off to the side, cleaning and tending to it. And he formally introduces himself as High General Albrecht, that he is here at the fort he's making a call along all of the forts in this section of the wall. And that for the time being, he has instructed the Inquisitor that his services will not be needed. He also apologizes if he misspeaks. He's not proficient in your tongue to his satisfaction.
Birdie says, well, you sound better than Adrex.
Raazu elbows Birdie in the shoulder.
If you want to cook him, we can eat him for dinner. That's cool.
Raazu elbows Adrex next.
He has a table in the center
Started
of the pavilion. He has the nicest chair at the head of the table, for sure. And you can see where a meal has recently been eaten in here and cleared away. The table's currently empty, but he bids you all to sit, and we'll discuss. Essentially, we'll discuss what has happened with you recently.
Raazu positions herself so that she does not have her back to the entrance.
Are you taking a chair or are you staying standing?
She will only sit once the others have sat.
Okay.
Red will sit down.
Red will sit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Adrex will too.
Wendy perches on the back of the chair.
Birdie sits in the chair that Wendy's perched on.
And in turn, he asks what he should call each of you.
You can call me Adrex, which doesn't mean anything.
My name is the pattern which is formed as the wind blows over the sand.
We call her Windy.
And Wendy's shaking her head like, no. The whole thing.
Red usually will do for me.
Raazu.
I'm Birdie.
He's under the table digging a hole. He calls his squire over to the table, and the squire produces what looks like a green candle sitting in this candle holder. You can see this candle's been lit many times. The wax is melted down the side over the holder. And he instructs the candle to be lit. The squire strikes flint, lights the candle, and it gives off this very intoxicating aroma. This almost sickly sweet smell invades all of your nostrils. He tells you that in the presence of this device, that none of you will be able to lie to him. Would anybody like to resist the effects of Zone of Truth?
Is it magic?
It is magic. It's magic AF.
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
How
The
offended?
candle gonna know if you
Exactly. What kind of save is this?
Now, the spell does specify that when you cast it, you know if somebody succeeds on a save.
Mm-hmm.
Destil, you're in a tunnel.
Sorry about that.
But nobody's casting it. It's happening with a candle.
Yeah.
So
No, I'm totally gonna make the saving throw. What type of save is it?
it's a charisma saving throw.
Oh, I'm good at those.
You get +3 to that.
And advantage.
I mean, Wendy just tells the truth.
So that's a right. So that one's gonna come out to a 27.
Okay. Is anybody else
Alright,
going to
now-
resist these effects?
Don't lie about anything I can't, because I'm not resisting.
No.
No? Okay.
Oh, how
But Raazu does look very offended by this.
how insulted would Adrex be?
No.
Red just nods curtly as the smoke fails to affect him.
And when he sees how insulted Raazu's looking, squirreling her face up in the back of the room and refusing to take a chair, he says...
No, she sits. She
She
does
sits?
sit once everyone else has sit.
Okay. But yeah, looking offended, and he holds up his hand and he says, "This is not how I would usually operate, but it was a condition placed by the Inquisitor."
Very well.
He asks if anybody requires a drink. He can send the boy out for ale.
That sounds
No.
like a great idea.
And he nods to the kid. He leaves the room.
The Inquisitor's not very polite. And then Wendy looks surprised that she said something.
why you
He has
choose not to
which of
say
you?
anything, Wendy.
Were responsible for the cloud of darkness at the bridge.
What did he say?
He
I
asks
heard.
which of you was responsible for the cloud of darkness at the bridge. Do I need to
Birdie, right.
finagle my noise gate a little bit more?
No, I just deaf.
Just digging a hole into the table. Got it.
Yeah, no. Birdie's staring at the candle, and he just squeaks out me, and then he looks surprised.
He says he's heard reports a little over a year ago from the far west of a goblin tribe capable of launching gouts of fire from their fingertips. More recently, he's heard of similar reports from his own patrolmen in this area of an ogre who can make the ground quake merely by stomping his feet. 2 weeks hence, he was at the sea investigating reports of a ship of pirates plaguing the waters who were able to create mysterious calm and kill the winds.
Wendy looks offended.
And now, my own scout with his own eyes tells me of a dragonling able to create a cloud of darkness and
Birdie
lashing
bust out.
tentacles.
Birdie busts out and smile, and he just kind of to himself. He goes, "I like being called Dragonling."
He's not actually a dragon. Don't. It's.
In previous editions, he was a dog.
He's kind of a mutt, really. It's, you know.
Birdie looks very hurt at Adrex and says, he just his little lip quivers.
There tend to be a lot of complexities to lineages among us northern peoples. We mean no offense.
He tells you that his charge, by His Majesty himself, is that prisoners north of the wall are to meet with the Inquisitor and then be brought south and shackled. He says that he's seen this procession many times, typically with orcs, who are primarily poisonous in this region. Great parades of them led through the cities that people may cheer at the victory of their defeat, and eventually they're put to death, their heads placed on pikes as a warning to others of your kind that might seek to ravage our lands.
Raazu looks very offended by that.
And he looks at you, and he says, "I don't mean to cause offense. I'm simply stating what is supposed to happen in this situation."
Again, the complexities of the politics of the North might somewhat escape you if you only concern yourself to these areas, rightly so.
And as you're talking...
The orcs aren't necessarily our kind.
As you're talking, as you're explaining that the orcs are not your kind, there's a lot of complexities, he holds up his arm, and he peels back his tunic and lifts up his chain shirt. And he leans forward on this table, showing you the back of his shoulder. And Red, you see the brand of, not necessarily your tribe, but the definite marking of where Yuan-ti has branded him with acid.
Alright.
He tells you that he knows more of the peoples beyond the wall than most in the Empire. He says, I have fought in your pits, Snakeling.
Orcs do suck, though. we all hate orcs.
What did he do?
I'll let Red decide if the mark is of his particular tribe or one of the other Yuan-ti civilizations.
Yeah, let's go with it. Let's make it Red's tribe.
Okay. Then yeah, as you're explaining about how, you know, we're not all the same and there's a lot of complexity, I mean, you see the acid brand on his shoulder that is placed on the gladiatorial pits.
I thought we were Red's tribe.
And then Adrex goes on with this little tirade about how much orcs suck.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a very small tirade.
He tells you that he was taught to speak the orc tongue by an orc named Medium Larth. He says that he did not have the pleasure of meeting Big Larth or Small Larth, but that Larth was another one of the prisoners in the Yuan-ti fighting pits, together with him and one of the jungle cats, a man named Stenersnee. The three of them managed to escape. And he gives a nod to Birdie. He says, "Your kind did not aid in our escape, little tunneler, but we did make use of your passages through the mountains. And I assured my friends, men that I had fought alongside and killed in the Yuan-ti pits, that when we reached the wall they would be safe, that I would vouch for them, that the people would see them as heroes.
But
He says that the
Adrex closes
Inquisitors
his eyes.
had Larth's head taken off and mounted along the wall. That the details of his imprisonment were placed at the feet of orcs, of which Larth was a perpetrator. Says that Stenersnee was taken by some high nobility as a curiosity to be paraded out and sing at parties. A sort of noble freak show. Many years later, I helped him escape that fate by ship, but at that point he had been lost to drink and opium. And at that point, your own drinks enter the room as the squire comes in carrying enough tankards for all of you."
Raazu refuses to drink.
I mean, Birdie just downs the whole thing.
Just immediately.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that I haven't heard that stories like that many times in the past, and I will say right now that I have no love with my own people.
Not all orcs are bad.
Well, I don't think I've met a good orc, but not all orcs are necessarily bad.
It comes down to an individual's characteristics, I suppose.
And he imagines that proximity together in the gladiatorial pits made strange allies of them. The point is that he is seeing great honor and nobility in the peoples north of the walls, and he has seen great acts of cruelty in the south.
Point taken.
Raazu takes a deep breath through her nose, but says nothing.
How good does this ale taste?
I mean, it's dwarven ale, so pretty fucking good.
pretty
Okay.
strong.
I mean,
Adrex with no brewing supplies. Oh.
it might well be the best oil you've ever drank in your life. Yeah, you're having a big old cup of
It's a nice oily brew.
right.
It's nice vegetable oil. It's all fat. Good.
The general continues that regardless of the nobility and cruelty that he sees, he still has a duty to make his land safe from invaders. However, looking across the table, sharing his meat and mead with you lot, it's clear to him that you are not invaders. So he sees no compuncture to bring any punishment to you at all.
Will the prisoners of the Drow that we returned, do you think they'll be able to find a place in your society? I'm not sure that all of them are originally from here, though some are. Do you have space for refugees or any sort of way to care for them?
From what he's heard of, I mean, he hasn't met with the prisoners personally himself. That's much below his station. But from what he's heard, all of these humans were born in the Underdark. They were born into captivity. But places will be made for them. He says that the recent crusade that came back from the Underdark had many such peoples, and that they have methods in place to integrate them into society, generally settling them on quiet farmland somewhere inside the Empire where they could be carefully watched over so that no other harm comes to them.
Oh, good.
Theirs will be a simple but quiet life. He asks what motivated you to bring these prisoners south? Why not just leave them to their fate?
Wendy closes her eye sockets and sighs.
Well, they on one point they didn't necessarily belong in the north, or at least that's what most northerners would believe, and that might have been hard to overcome. And secondly, it just seemed like the more humane thing to do.
He asks, with your permission, he would like to turn the discussion back to your little tunneler's abilities, this cloud of darkness. And Birdie, he starts peppering you with all kinds of questions. He asks you how you came by this ability.
I figured it out.
He asks what you mean by that.
I saw somebody do it, and I copied them.
And he starts asking questions about the person who you saw do it.
It was a cat, man. He liked to kill orcs with it.
Is Adrex trying to not say anything?
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything. You're not compelled to speak as this candle burns.
No, Adrex is just compelled to speak by being Adrex.
Right.
Yeah.
And he cannot speak. Well, he can't speak lies, but
He tells you that there are many great magicians in the south. Typically elves or sometimes the angelics or diabolics are able to wield magics. But that in his experience, this has all been smoke and mirrors. This has all been illusion. The great wizards of mythology past, there's no actual tangible evidence that any of them still exist. He wants to know why he and his men are getting more and more reports of monsters in the north able to do these fantastic things, while none of the men of the south are able to.
Wait a second, Diabolics. You have devils south of the wall, and you call us monsters?
Wendy doesn't know anything of civilization south of the wall, is that correct?
Right.
Does Red?
Red knows a bit, actually, from between talking to slaves from the south and also having been involved in it.
Red, make a history check.
one of the prisoners that Raazu escaped with was a tiefling.
Okay. Well, then Raazu also having been in proximity to the wall.
That's a 6. No, that's a 2.
A 2?
History, you said?
History, yes.
Uh, 19.
Okay. South of the wall, every so often, typically to human families, will be born, instead of somebody being a full human, somebody with, in your experience, diabolic properties that you know as a tiefling. So when he's speaking of angelics and diabolics, he's speaking of Aasimar and tiefling. These are rarities in human culture. They don't have their own society. As far as you know, and it's horrible that you know this, but you're a goblinoid, and goblins would experiment with this kind of thing. They're sterile. They can't breed with each other.
Mm.
But yeah, having escaped with a tiefling, that's what he means by diabolic.
Raazu will explain what he means by that.
Okay. He says that there's no official law or regulation that gives him the authority to request your assistance in collecting information about why some of these magical abilities are waking up now. However, if you are of a mind to report to Fort Solace from time to time, with my personal guarantee that you would meet safely with my man Ironheart, I would see you well compensated for any information you could uncover.
Ironheart is your man? Because he seemed very excited to be speaking with the High Inquisitor, who, judging from what you just told us, I don't think I have an interest in talking to.
He kind of gives Red a wry smile and says that the politics of the various branches of the Melvin-Ponce military are a very complicated subject that would be difficult for Northerners to fully understand.
That's fine. I don't want them to be uncomplicated for me with a sword.
He tells you that
Red
it's true
just
that
nods.
Ironheart was surprised to see him at the fort, that he was not expected here for another week or so. He arrived
So,
sooner than he was expected.
What brought you here sooner then?
He says good weather. We were expecting heavier snows, and they didn't arrive.
Raazu fiddles with the with the charlatan's die in her pocket. It says maybe it was chance.
He tells you that because he is sitting with you in a pavilion that he put up under his own strength, outside of the boundaries of Imperial rule, that he's able to speak more freely than he could if he was inside the king's lands. He tells you that he's seeking allies in the north. The kinds of allies that there can be no trail connecting me with in any of the Southling lands. He needs to know whether these magical appearances that are being reported along the wall are true. He needs to know if they pose a threat to the peoples of the South. And he's looking for people that he can trust in the North to carry out these investigations.
Birdie starts like rubbing his hands together, like he's like, "So
Go ahead, Birdie.
can you tell us where these other reports are coming in at?"
And he rattles off a couple more examples. The most recent one, though, and the reason he is this far north at the moment, is these waters over to the east are rampant with piracy. And recently there's been reports of a particular pirate's ship that is able to becalm any vessel, cut off any form of retreat. It's as though the winds in the sky just completely die.
That's bogus.
Birdie just kind of
What
blurts
good
out.
does that do them? Do they have like a sea monster pulling the ship?
He tells you what good that does them is that with these smaller merchant vessels unable to escape, they can
It leaves them easy pickings.
precisely, they fire their guns and harpoons, take everything of value and sink the vessel. And now, my own scout with his own eyes reports of a little tunneler in the north, able to create a black cloud of tentacles.
I mean, there's some smoke and darkness too. It's not just tentacles.
It's mostly tentacles.
It's
You want allies in the north. Just for information purposes?
He says that reports on his end are very sketchy, very sporadic, and some of the investigations he's done on his own have essentially hit the blinds. They've gone nowhere. They've been false reports. The Inquisitors would tell you that all of the reports are false, that this is rumors and heresy speaking out against the elven magics of the South.
so that's why you can't talk to anybody in the north or in the south about this.
He says that he knows that these abilities are real, and he now has one of his trusted scouts has seen it personally less than a day's ride from the wall.
I mean,
Was this candle made by one of your great elven mages or a priest?
He nods. He tells you that it was.
So you believe at least some of it to be real, or are you just doing this for appearance, if you don't mind me asking?
He tells you that the candle is real. That the elves especially have a great many of these timeless artifacts he calls them, from an older time when magic was very common indeed.
Birdie whispers, "Can I have the candle?"
Birdie.
And he smiles a little bit, but he declines.
Sorry, the price for such knowledge is apparently infinite inquisitiveness, even when it's against your better judgment.
And he says, and that brings us to the subject of price. How will you take payment?
I could take that candle.
Birdie.
What?
Raazu glares at Birdie.
I mean, I think the most fair thing would first of all be to be a free exchange of information. Anything that you learn about magics from other sources, we would have interest in.
He nods, and he says that that's acceptable. He calls his squire over, and his squire is carrying a heavy leather-bound tome. And the general asks if any of you can read Elvish text.
Look to
Yeah.
Adrex.
No, you can't.
Adrex is an expert on elves.
I can read Pixie.
I am the Elvish expert in the group.
The general instructs the squire to carry the tome over to Adrex. He hands it up to you.
Oh, man.
Yes, these are words.
Thunderous axe spell. Thunderous axe spell. Come on. Come on. Big bucks, no whammies.
He tells you that this is from his personal collection, his family library. That you would find it probably 2 or 3 centuries outdated, but it is an Inquisitor's text. A tome of this nature is given to most mid-ranking acolytes inside the Inquisitor organization. Anything a mid-level Inquisitor would know as far as magical secrets is recorded in this book. Is this
Birdie climbs
fair enough
into
exchange of information?
Birdie raises his hand and says, "Hold up!" And he climbs into Adrex's lap and he starts looking in the book.
Okay. And it's 100% Elvish runes. I mean, it's written, or not Elvish scripts. There's some diagrams here and there, but without reading the script, they don't make any sense.
In 20 seconds, Adrex starts getting a headache trying to read this.
Would you mind if I conferred with my allies in confidence for a moment?
He tells you that if you decide not to take him up on this offer, if you decide this is not a arrangement that you wish to enter into, then travel north in safety, with his thanks as far as delivering the prisoners, but that it would not be safe to show your face with an eye shot of Fort Salis or any other establishment along the wall. That in return for delivering these prisoners, you have your freedom. And then he stands and he says, "I'll give you a moment." He and his squire exit the pavilion.
I look. Red
They
looks
douse the
between
candle
various
first.
people.
The candle's no
Oh
longer.
damn!
Oh, good.
I was about to test the candle.
No, he douses the candle and the squire takes it back. It leaves with them.
Adrex closes the book.
Well, he hasn't given me any reason to distrust him.
He's a human. That's all I need to know. I don't like this.
We could give him, potentially in exchange as a sign of good faith, one of the runes.
Birdie gasps.
I mean, do you want to go in? Do you want to actually make an effort at this or not, Birdie?
Oh, I thought you meant like giving one of the spell stones. I'm sorry. Continue.
No. Draw one of the runes for
Draw
him.
one of the runes.
Draw the rune for the. I mean, they've seen the hunger of what do you call it?
Hunger of Hadar.
What's a Hadar?
I don't know.
Okay. That's what I knew you were going to say that, yet I still ask. Show him the rune that we know of for hunger for Hadar, and explain that it's the key to unlocking the magic.
Do we have to give him something so powerful?
Well, they know that one exists. Is the reason I would suggest it.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. So, I don't know, man. He gave us. He showed his hand too early. He told us his story about escaping the North, and he showed us his brand. I don't know what his motivations are.
Well, how about this? How about we give him the Hunger of Hadar rune? I think that's not going to pose any danger to us. It's mostly something that's dangerous if you don't know it's coming. Then we find out what he does with it, see if we can learn all we can about his intentions, since we don't know them. If it turns out he's being honest, it could be useful to have an ally to the south.
I tend to agree with Wendy.
I agree with that too. It's just something about this arrangement. I feel like there's something he's not telling us. It's so sketchy.
Could we
No,
ask him
if you
about
read
this?
between the lines, what he's not telling us is if we come here on the wrong time of year or day or whatever, and the Inquisitor is in charge and he isn't, we'll probably be hanged. So let's not do that.
I would really like this book, you guys.
Yeah. First off, you can't even read it.
I know, but my boss probably can.
No, absolutely not.
Why?
Did you get like, any way to contact your girlfriend there, Adrex?
I don't want to contact her.
Right. Like a cousin, maybe?
No.
So back up. Why can't I take the book to my boss?
We are not letting you take the big magic book to your boss.
Why?
Because it's ours.
He won't necessarily keep it.
Birdie, if this
Birdie.
candle was right here, would
Birdie,
you be saying that?
Yeah, if that
Birdie.
candle was in this room, would you be saying
Who
that?
are you talking to here?
Do we know anyone who might be able to translate it in the north? We could ask.
We know a lot of Moakton.
Yeah, that was my
Well,
first
I've been
thought. Is
living
we
in
could
the
see if any of
Feywild.
them Moakton.
As far as reading
Yeah.
the book, all you have to, if you can speak Elvish, you can read this book.
It's just Adrex has a headache because it's old Elven script, so it takes more processing power for him to get what they're saying.
I mean,
Right, he's working on.
there's no game mechanics to support that, but who am I to argue with Adrex?
Well, I think that Raazu says that I think that this is entirely absurd and that humans can't be trusted. But if the lot of you are so keen to work on them, then I'll support you.
I'm just saying we find out what we can.
I agree with that.
Like,
There's one more thing too. If he knows how we're casting these, then he's going to be able to cast anyone.
yeah, I don't think so.
You don't
I'm
think
not
so?
concerned about that.
I don't think he's going to be able to do it because there's a certain. Let me put my teaching hat on here. I think there's a certain external force required to cast these from my tinkering. But
I agree.
And I think if he
Well-
was able to achieve that, he'd be able to achieve this anyway.
yeah,
Fair enough.
Okay, then.
I still have my reservations. There's something
I
he's
do
not
too.
telling us, but
I do too, Adrex. I'm right there with you.
I mean, my personal opinion is that I think we could enter this arrangement in good faith, but at the same time be aware that it might come back to bite us.
so hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yes.
I really want this book.
You're still sitting in Adrex's lap, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm clutching the book too.
Ah,
So
Well,
shall we?
then Adrex is clutching you, so
So shall we? So shall we call them back in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raazu steps over to the tent flap and then looks around for the squire or Mr. Nightman.
The squire is waiting patiently, but the general has taken his leave. And the squire asks, and he's speaking very broken common. He's clearly learning the language, but is not super proficient in it. He asks if you have come to a decision that he may report to the general.
We have some information to pass on to him. His eyes only.
He's
All right.
first he asks to repeat the statement. He's not sure that he understood what you meant, and he's very clearly nervous.
I mean, I can just tell him in Southland.
Okay. he tells you that he's been instructed to report back to the general with your answer.
We're willing to enter into an agreement with him. We just have some information as part of that he might want to know.
I really want this book.
And then, in a very kind of racist, but not trying to be racist way, he asks if any of you are able to write.
Like, what language?
Like the squire thinks you all are monsters, and he would be surprised if any of you could write with your weird like claws and fangs and stuff.
Raazu looks very offended by this, but then defers to Red since he's the one who can speak their
if we
crazy
had parchment
South
and,
language.
And a quill.
And he says, very well, and he provides for you. Well, I mean, there's already parchment and ink and such inside the pavilion, but he provides you with a scroll, a missive that's sealed with the seal of the Golden Axe.
Well, this is your department, Birdie. Why don't you lay it out as well as you can?
Let go of the book and write.
Like,
And Adrex takes both of his hands and starts to gently squeeze Birdie's head.
Birdie starts
Channel squeeze.
flailing his arms like a muppet and crying and screaming.
Adrex,
He needs to write it.
just tell him to write then.
It's soothing.
So, Birdie, what do you write on the parchment?
I draw the rune for the Hunger of Hadar as I cast it. Do you want me to draw it out?
You're casting it?
No, as I cast
Okay.
it.
No, you don't need to draw it out. I'm confident that you know what it looks like. But is that all you're putting on the parchment?
Like, for now. Like, is he just taking it to the? Is the guy coming back? I don't.
The squire will take this parchment and report it to the general. That's his. That's what his job is.
Well, I'm going to put his detailed information on what I do to cast this. Keeping out the, like, any, the rune, any, like, hand gestures, some, components and all that, and just hand it to him. There you go.
Is there any sealing wax in here?
Yeah, but I don't think any of you have a signet.
That's okay.
I mean, put the sealing wax on there, and then,
Adrex just squashes it with his big old thumb.
yes, that's it. That's what I was going to do,
what I was
actually.
thinking.
That's exactly what I was going to do.
Who takes the missive from the squire?
What is...
I will.
Okay.
Crack open the seal, unroll it.
And it's written in Southling.
Raazu rolls her eyes, passes it to Red.
All right.
And Red, it's instructions. Basically, you can hand this missive to any man from Fort Salus, and their directive would then be to bring you directly to Ironheart. This is essentially your get out of human free card in this area.
Stupid human jail.
Stupid.
I'm just going to go ahead and add that to my inventory then.
Okay.
Yep.
Adrex is adding the Magic Elven book to his inventory.
Okay.
No!
You can't read it.
Neither can he!
Yes,
He's
you
our
can.
expert.
No, he can't!
Adrex totally can read it, yes. Adrex can speak Elvish, he can read this book.
It's just an old Elven script, and it takes a long time to process. Which there are no mechanics for. But who is Brick Road to stop this?
It takes a long time for Adrex to process, like a Burger King menu.
I mean, I remember second edition, like, read-write was actually a proficiency you had to buy with skill points.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Here's the candle of truth is no longer in the room. Right?
Right.
Right. Yeah. Right, McDohl. The key.
Right.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. Yeah. I'm picking up what you're putting down there. So yeah, if there's no further business, we will be on our way.
Okay. Do you guys leave immediately, or do you wait until the next morning?
No, I
Raazu
think
is
we're
very
good to
keen to
leave.
leave immediately.
Yeah, I
Raazu
think
is
we can
very
leave.
keen to leave immediately.
Windy.
Wendy.
Windy. Yeah. Where... You know what? Just...
Wendy.
Hold on. I'll get to you in a second. Pattern that whatever. We just got to do that first. Okay. Show me on this map a mountainous region where the Wind Dukes of Akka, the Council of Akka,
Yeah.
convenes. Where are you guys traveling next? All the way up here on this crazy island?
Uh-huh.
This journey is going to take a very long time then.
Here's the thing.
Mhm.
I didn't decide this. We decided this way, way back when.
Did we?
In session 0. Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember that, but sure. That's fine.
I do.
Birdie remembers it.
Yeah,
Birdie
I
will back
remember.
me up.
I remember.
Adrex, going through this
Yes, sir.
book, are you making an attempt to translate it?
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
pestering
I'm
him.
not talking to
until
Birdie.
he-
I'm talking to Adrex.
I know, but I'm pestering him to do it.
Adrex, are you...
Yeah. This would be an interesting exercise for you. So yeah, absolutely.
So you're going to get some supplies together, and as you're working during downtime along this march, you're going to be translating this book into what language?
Common or Adrix?
Has anyone in the party made a case as to they want to learn what's in this book? Or is this strictly a Birdie, and Birdie is the
Oh
most
no,
interested?
Wendy absolutely wants to learn what's in the
Okay,
book. However,
then-
Wendy also wants to learn everything.
Then Adrex will translate it into monstrous common.
Okay. And most of what's in this book are just, I mean, very beautiful and very well told elven stories. A lot of fables and legends, a lot of descriptions of elven magic. And there are a lot of diagrams of various spells. There's a lot of lineage in this book, drawing direct connections from various elven houses of the south to older and more powerful fae on the other side of the veil. And you guys have been there and you're like, whatever. But in the entire journey translating this whole book, as valuable as you're sure it is as part of a great library, there does not seem to be an ounce of real magic anywhere in its pages.
It's just descriptions of what we, the players, would know as like warlocks and wizards and shit, right?
No, not even.
Oh, okay.
It's more like
It's a PHB.
there are a lot of formulas outlining, like, do this in this order with this ingredients to create this effect, but nothing that is even remotely similar to what you guys know as magic when it comes to the runes.
Like alchemy?
There's some chapters on alchemy, converting certain materials into other materials, transmutations and things. There's a lot of protection spells, but I mean the little ones that you guys have access to, trying as you're along your march to the far north here, trying out some of these. None of them work. There's no indication that any of them could work. It's just, to put it bluntly, it's a lot of flowery nonsense.
Brick, can I use my long rest to try for that spell?
Yeah, we're gonna do that at the end of the session.
Okay.
Because McDohl says he has to leave a little early tonight. Is that correct?
That is correct. I got to be out by 3:30.
Okay.
6:30.
I was gonna say 3:30 was 2 hours ago, nerd. Yeah, we'll do some long rest stuff.
Okay.
Oh, let me draw an X on my map here in Photoshop in order to put the Dukes of Akka down.
I put a circle on our map here.
There it is.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So how do you guys get there? Let me start there.
Yeah. How do we get there?
What's the plan?
Let's go steal a pirate ship.
That sounds like a lot longer than a one-session sort of adventure.
Yeah.
Oh, I do have a pirate adventure getting planned. Don't worry. We're gonna do some pirates.
I think we go overland as far as we can till here, and then there's probably some sort of settlement built up there, which is designed to bring people across the water.
Okay. That can get you up to a vessel that can sail you to this island.
Yes.
There probably wouldn't be a lot of piracy in this region, but there might be small like fishing villages and things, maybe with larger ships for expeditions. Maybe there's an aquatic race in the area that can ferry you across.
I'm just picturing the pirates real smug roll up on some ship up there, And then they're just like, yeah, but check this out. And then a bunch of Aarakocras shoot arrows at them.
And this is where we were told the thing that we need to go collect for the Fae is.
Yes, that's the Titan's spine, but like I said, when this is an older version of this map, what must have happened is when I last updated this map, I updated it in Photoshop and didn't save the template after I exported the map. So the map probably still exists on the corrupted hard drive. Maybe I'll pull it off later, but
We could stop and do this, and then head over there when we're done.
Or I could not be blind.
You make a compelling argument.
It's a long and arduous journey to the north, but nothing you guys haven't dealt with. I mean, you have some skirmishes with orcs here and there. When you get deep into the forests, navigating becomes a little bit difficult. You do the best you can navigating along rivers. You have to find some way across this Trust's End River. This is much
You got
too...
some kelpies.
Kelpies?
That's why it's called Trust End.
Okay. The most difficult part of the journey is going to be getting to the actual monastery. This is a place that is designed to be reached by wing. This is a place where, Wendy, your companions were never meant to set foot. The climb is especially perilous. What kind of provisions do you guys try to prepare for this expedition into mountains where, as far as you know, no non-winged person has ever gone?
Build a hot air balloon. That's what we should do.
Adrex invents the hot air balloon.
The schematic for it in this Elvish book.
Climbing
So
gear.
Yeah, I think if we get some climbing gear, like generally the hardest part of climbing is the first person making their way up so that they can make a safe anchor,
Mhm.
and I can fly.
Yep.
So as long as I'm able to kind of fly up there and make an anchor for them, I'm just going to be relying on Red to give me very, very precise directions on where I should be flying.
This is it. This will be possible, but it will still be very perilous.
I mean, Wendy could carry me up the mountain, and
I
I
mean,
could.
the other option is you guys don't come, but that seems boring. Wendy assumes everyone wants to come because everyone would, of course, want to learn what's there.
My concern, given the distances involved, is finding relatively reasonable places to rest along the way. As much as anything else. Like, that's a 3 days journey even once we get to the top of these mountains.
Yeah.
Or is it better to go around the side and climb up the northeast face?
I mean, most likely, whoever brings you to this island can sail you some distance up this river.
But that's in mountains. There's got to be waterfalls there somewhere. I mean, unless they have a lift.
Well, but this is Dungeons and Dragons, right? Eventually, with a high enough swim score, you could swim straight up those waterfalls.
It's true.
No.
But to answer Birdie's question, yeah, Wendy could carry you, as long as you're not carrying too many supplies, and then kind of make safe waypoints that way.